I think many people in positions of power think they have the right to come and go as they please, and I don't think you do. I think one of the greatest faux pas and mistakes you can make is not being there before your team and leaving before your team. Because a great deal of people I've seen in charge will bug out when they think they just can go when they want to. And I think that's wrong. I don't believe the person in charge should leave ever before their team. I would sit there till midnight, 1 and 2 in the morning if it needed it. If my team was staying back and they were doing technical work and I couldn't help them, as I said once before, I would sit with them, get them dinner, keep them company, or get them coffee. Because I think two things happen out of that. One, you're building a strong relationship and they know that they've got someone with them all the time. But the other side of this is you can add input. It mightn't always be technical. It might be something creative that pops in. But on top of that, you're learning. You're always learning. You're learning how things render, how shots work, how specific project pieces go together. That as a leader sitting up here, sometimes you miss on the macro and you don't quite get the gist of all the pieces. And as I said, great generals eat with their troops, and you stay with your troops, you work with your troops, and you get a great grounding, and that allows you the ability to go up and have an overview of what's going on. Otherwise, you don't quite understand. I think a great deal of officers in the military suffer the same thing, and I know a lot of guys in the military at special forces level and all different levels, and a lot of the time they don't listen to the officers so much. They'll take it on board and then they'll change it to suit what actually works because they've done their time on the ground. So it's a great problem that many people in charge have because they aren't true leaders, they're bosses or they're management. And just because you're great at your job doesn't mean you're great at leading people. And as I said before, I don't think everyone can lead people. Yes, we can build the skill sets to lead people, but if you're a prick, you're always going to be a prick. And if you don't care about people and you're a sociopath, guess what? That's you. You won't be great in charge of people or working with people. So you may not be the best person for the gig, even if you are the best salesperson in the country. And you have to be honest about that too, because not everyone's cut out to lead. Sometimes you're cut out to do other things. There's a term I hear quite a bit called KPIs, your key performance indicators. I don't ever use terms like that, regardless of needing to know what they are. I don't like talking to people in those sort of acronyms which make them sound like a piece of the puzzle. They don't sound like they're human or feel humanized. And you need to understand that you need to talk to your people as if they're people, friends, like they truly are. And once you start going, oh, what's the KPI, what's this, what? It's wrong. I worked with a real estate person once and one of the guys at the meeting said, he goes, I'm a great leader. And he was talking himself up, which is just the worst thing ever. And saying that on a Friday afternoon, he gets all his teams to send in what their results were for the day. And if they were up to his standard, he would message them back a smiley face. And if they weren't up to his standard, they got no result. They got nothing from him. And he goes, and they come around pretty quick. Well, I pretty much said, I think you're not the best in a different language to that. And I said, my reply to this guy was, that's not leadership. That's completely the opposite. That's pushing fear. That's pushing an agenda. That's not actually having people's best interest at heart. Because what if things aren't going well at home? What if the area is not functioning? What if you're having troubles with the way you sell stuff or the way you word things, and maybe you need a hand with that? So instead of just being abrasive and knocking people away about not getting up to performance level, have you ever tried to ask them why or how you could possibly help? Or if there's something you could do in terms of teaching to help build what they need to do, which is like mentoring. But not many people do that properly. They're very quick to kibosh people when they're not up to standard, instead of going, well, how do we bring you up to standard? Or what can we possibly do to make this work better for you? Because it can be simple things that make great changes, and we miss that. And so I think people like that are absolute bastards, and I can't stand them. And I think they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They may make a lot of money, but no one's going to mourn their past, and put it that way. Very few people. I think if you're going to lead people, you lead from the heart. You know, to me, leadership is so simple. It's care and communication. It's those two things. If you care about people and you communicate with people, and I mean truly care, you actually love your team and you work with your team, you try to get the best from your team and you give them your best, and you communicate with them, you can't not go well. Of course it's going to work better than anyone else will, because you've got their back, and that's the difference. Until you actually do that, you won't be a great leader. So I've got a saying, it's not all about work. We had this song called Super Greg, which somebody found. And as soon as I would play that, everyone on the team had to stop work. We all had to go outside and we had to play hacky sack. And part of the gig was you had to work out your own special move. But all of these little processes, and they're done because we need a break, and they're done because people need exercise, but they actually bring people together having just a good time. And then occasionally we duck out for lunch. We brought Far Cry, which is a computer game, into my teams, and we would play Far Cry, where you got a chance to bludgeon each other with this fighting game. But at the same time, it was hilarious because people got a great lot of fun out of that. And it took your mind off the projects, brought you together as a collective team, and you enjoyed yourselves for a period of time. And it's not all about work. And if it is all about work, you're going to suffer because people are going to be run down. And on that same topic, when people in my team needed time off, if I saw they were struggling or saw they needed to prepare for a wedding or something that was important to them, I would deviate shots away from them, pass them on to other team members who could cover it and say, you know what, take 3-4 days off. We'll see you when you get back. But I would also tell them not to tell the production team because they'd probably dock their pay. So they just weren't here for 3-4 days. And in doing that, I said, I'll give you this 100%. But remember, if I do need you when we get to crunch time, can you just please try and be there for me? And of course they were 100%. And it made a massive difference in the progress of the team and how our shot rate and productivity went up. And we got a reputation of being these people that just delivered. When I would go to every review with the director, everyone would come along. And the funny thing about that is most of the time it would just be the head of department. And then it becomes like a whole he said, she said thing. He would tell me something and I would tell them, they'd tell them. It's like, why not just bring the horse to the water? So everyone came up and everyone sat in the room and I would say, well, this is this person's shot, and pass it straight to the director. And the director could talk to them. So much simpler. And then they would leave and the next person would do their thing. And so everyone got the word from the horse's mouth. Everybody got direct commentary. And if we had people from other countries who couldn't speak English so well, maybe second, third language, and they mightn't have gotten it on the first run through, the director could run through it again and again until they got it. And then they could go. So things worked out much better, and other team managers couldn't work out how this was happening. But it was just because I brought everybody up. I figured, well, it's better him tell them than him tell me to tell them. And taking out that one layer of communication made it so much simpler. All right, meetings and their purpose. So many times I was in meetings, and there was a part on one of the projects I worked on for a number of years. There were so many meetings in a day involving all the heads of departments that they were never out of meetings. And I remember saying one day, how do we get these projects done with everybody who has to make the decisions about the project is in a meeting all day? And it never made sense to me. And then the other thing that was even worse about this is we never had a resolution to the meeting. They'd have an open question at the start, what they needed to solve, and we'd get to the end of the time frame, they go, right, we're going to go to another meeting, and they'd leave. Now we hadn't got an answer. And then these same people would leave, have another room booked, walk to this other room, sit down with the same people again, and have another meeting where there'd be no resolution, and then that would be cut, and we'd go to the next meeting where there was no resolution, and so on. And this happened for a long time until one day I had enough and I said, we're cancelling all the meetings. We're going to have 2 meetings from now on. One's on a Monday morning, one's on a Friday night. Monday morning, we set up the week. We set up everything that needs to be achieved in that week. Friday night, we go through it and we find out what we made, what we didn't reach, and what we need to work on. And guess what? The meetings are concise. They had an ending. We didn't leave until the meeting had a finish, a conclusion. So we had to get a resolution to these things. And the thing about doing it on a Friday night is everybody wants to go home, so no one messes around. They want to get to an answer so they can go out. So that's how we worked things, and it worked much better. We also had the heads of department back in the building so they could approve shots and do work. So everything worked better. So if you're going to have a meeting, really, you have to have an agenda. You have to make sure the right people are there. Any more than 8 people in a meeting, I walk out. There's too many heads, too much stuff. And once you've done that, you make sure you don't leave the meeting until you've got a conclusion to it. Get an answer. Don't keep going, oh, we have to go now, we'll wrap this up next. No, you finish it. You finish it. Don't go wandering off into the sunset when there's still answers to be had. You finish the meeting. Bump the next one if you need to. But every meeting gets a resolution. Otherwise, don't go to another one. Okay, that's for me is one of the biggest things about meetings. Is a lot of the time they're a great break from work for people. So you must make sure that when you go to a meeting, you have the agenda, you nail it down, you get the answers, and you move on and get back to the project at hand. I think these days, mental health, which I've always had a big hand in mental health, I think it's a really important topic, is more important in the workplace than it used to be. But understanding signs and the physical signs of what happens when someone's struggling are usually apparent before the verbal signs. So someone comes in late quite often, they have a lot more sick days, and when they come in, they're disheveled, they're down, their shoulders are slumped, they don't look at anybody, they've got less communication, so they're separating themselves, and all of these little signs are quite clear that someone's having a hard time. So it doesn't have to be verbalized, because all this stuff's evident before anything ever gets said. And a lot of people, we are the injured animal of the African wilderness. You know, we don't want to tell people we're not well and we're struggling. We're like, yeah, we're good, when we're not. So we have to be mindful enough to be able to look at someone and go, they're having a hard time. So look for those signs. Then you can verbalize it. You know, but mental health has become a real thing in the workplace now, which I think is fantastic because it has importance, because this stuff, as I said, like PTSD, it becomes multi-generational. It'll bleed into your family, it'll damage your home life, and worse things happen from there. So it's something we need to be very mindful of. I think more workplaces need to have programs that teach people these skill sets. You know, it's all wonderful saying, you know, are you okay, and do you need a hand? That stuff's all great to say, but my big what if is this. No one ever teaches you what to say if someone says, no, I'm not. It's all great starting a conversation, but what's the point of starting the conversation if you don't know how to guide it from there? How do you take that person by the hand and take them to help? You know, I don't believe you hand someone off, I think you hand someone on, and your hand touches theirs. You now have a responsibility to that person to help them get to the next stage. And the more we become more comfortable with that, and the more we have a greater understanding of the signs and how to get someone, help someone through that, the better we're going to be. We're not always going to be stuck at work. The thing we've lost these days is grounding, like simply taking off our shoes and walking on the grass, lying on the ground, getting back into nature and getting all those microbiomes into the body which help recalibrate us and make us feel better again. There's so many studies around now showing you what it actually does to your blood once you lie on the ground for a while, what it does to your body. All the benefits are clear. That de-stresses you, the toxins change. So all of these great positive things that come out of this if we're just willing to take the time to do it. I think meditation is so underrated. I think meditation is brilliant if we just took the time to do it. We all need to have some exercise in the morning, you know, just a simple walk, something small, going to the gym, do something before you go to work, get the brain functioning, some sort of cardio activity to help your brain start working for the day. Be mindful of your diet. You know, so many people sit at work all day and they eat crappy food all day. They go home and they sit in front of the TV with a beer or a wine and they go to bed and do the next thing every day. It's not the way to live our lives. I think we've become so divergent from where we started and what our original world was to what we are now. We're missing this wonderful world that's been created for us because we're spending so much time in this world we created for ourselves. It's box after box after box. And we need to realize that out there is this wonderful environment which is actually there for us. And we are connected to the environment. You talk to the Aboriginals, you know the connection in the environment. You talk to anyone that's been part of the land for a long time and hasn't detached themselves from it, and you'll know there is some great benefits to being part of the land. And we need to get back to that more. We need to take more time to be one with nature. There was a great quote from Lao Tzu which says, "A leader is best when people barely know they exist. But when the work is done, the team will say, we did it ourselves." And I think if you are a leader, that's a great place to be. When people don't know you're there, when things just get fixed and happen around them, and they don't know how, don't know why, but the machine just works. When you become, I think Seth Godin talked about being the linchpin in the business. If you are that linchpin, you are the thing that makes the whole system work. That's a leader right there. It doesn't matter if you're a leader of your department or the whole thing, it does not matter. But your piece of the puzzle works beautifully and then works with the next piece. And the more people can communicate, the more people can work together, the machine and the system just runs. And at the end of it, you get a brilliant project, but you get a brilliant life experience. And you build a team of people that become friends which you can stay in contact with forever. To this very day, so many people that worked at a lower position than me in the industry have gone through on their careers and gone on to do wonderful, extraordinary things. And I'm proud to have worked with them when I did. And I'm proud of the things we did together. I never ever believed I was above them or where they sit in the tree mattered. I believed we were on this ship together, and it was either going to sink or it was going to float, and we wanted to make it float, so we did it together. And that's what made the difference. And we've stayed great friends ever since. And some of these people, this is 15, 20 years ago, and we're still in touch all the time. So the life to me is about the climb, the struggle, and the experiences, and the friendships you make on the way. And that, to me, is the best part of leadership out there. I hope you got something from this. It's just what I've picked up over the years. And if you can get something that's worthwhile that might help you a bit in your business or your life, fantastic.